Mr. Ono joins Matsuda by first painting a controversial image. But before he does the controversial image, he approaches his friend, Yasunari Nakahara. That is the tortoise. The tortoise was still there. He approaches him, and this is Mr. Ono approaches the tortoise and tells him, I want you to consider this. You make art that is of national value. Actually, Mr. Ono asks Mr. Matsuda, would you consider doing something that will go against the tenets of the Ono San villa? Would you consider doing something of more significance? Would you consider doing something that is more meaningful than whatever that we are doing? Mr. Nakahara, would you consider joining me the same way you joined me from Master Takeda Farm, so that we can do something that in a way will infuriate the tenants at the Ono San? Nakahara, maybe because of his slowness, does not easily comprehend what Mr. Ono is telling him. But remember, Mr. Ono at this point has already been radicalized by Mr. Matsuda. Now, what Mr. Ono is trying to do is to continue with the radicalization, to convert Nakahara, Yasunari Nakahara. But at this point, Yasunari Nakahara says no. So actually we see failure of Mr. Ono because he's unable to convince Mr. Yasunari Nakahara. Mr. Ono paints a controversial image, and this is the image that actually leads to his automatic fallout with Seiji Moriyama. The name of the image is Complacency. As we said elsewhere, is that the image that they used to do, the portraits, used to have names. And the Complacency image was motivated, or it was inspired by the scenes that Mr. Ono saw when he went at the place of the downtrodden, maybe at the slums. They saw some 3 boys at the slums. The boys were standing together and they were looking down as if they were torturing some animal. But now Mr. Ono decided to convert this into a drawing. He drew this image, but now the 3 boys who seemed to be attacking an innocent animal, they were now turned to be the samurai warriors. The samurai warriors had the kendo. They stood in the kendo stances. You see, at this point, the kendo stances, as maybe you will be shown in the split screen, the kendo stances, these are the warriors who are ready to fight. The Japanese warriors going to war to fight. And at the background, we are told that another image, or within the same image, there was in the background a show of 3 men seated together, smiling, feeling comfortable. And from the tone of the word that is used by the author here is that the 3 men were fat and they were comfortable. I think the fatness in this point could mean the businessmen who are comfortable in this country, and also the politicians who are comfortable in this country. But then the samurai warriors in the kendo stances were fighting so that they can chase away these businessmen, or maybe they can convert their country to be the way that they wanted. You see, this is motivating war. This is instituting war. This is motivating war, that the war that was not actually wanted in this country. And we are told that the 3 men seemed to be exchanging jokes about mistresses. The mistresses are actually, these are now at the geisha houses. The mistresses are the geisha houses. You see, in a way, Mr. Ono was ridiculing whatever that he was doing at the Ono San, drawing for the pleasure. In this point, in this image, the complacency, he has drawn the image to portray 3 samurai warriors fighting against the 3 men who are comfortable, who are just seated at an entertainment joint having fun. And then we are told that at the bottom of that photo, there was a message that was saying that, but the young are ready to fight for their dignity. Now, This image was drawn by Mr. Ono, and it was put somewhere. We are told that it in the old kitchen. Mr. Yasunari Nakahara, that's the tortoise, saw this image and they wondered. At some point, he gets to Mr. Ono and asks Mr. Ono, "Are you sure of what you are drawing? Don't you think this contravenes the philosophies of our teacher?" Mr. Ono remembers that he had told Yasunari Nakahara about drawing an image that would contravene the tenets of the Mori San. But Yasunari Nakahara does not join Mr. Ono. Instead, Yasunari Nakahara just walks away. And because Mr. Ono was a good teacher, Yasunari Nakahara, because Mr. Ono was a good protege of Mr. Mori-san, Mori-san does not take him very fast. He gives him a chance to change. He takes him to a place that is called the pavilion, and he talks to him. He asks Mr. Ono, "I see you've chosen to try some unfamiliar territories. You are trying to see how you can do in this other sector. But as a good student, yes, you can do that. But then, don't you think that this is in contravention to our tenets here at the villa?" Mr. Ono says that yes, it contravenes, but Mr. Ono reminds Seiji Moriyama, having told them at some point that you told us, the students, to always try to expound our territories, to challenge ourselves, to do something that can traverse the boundaries so that we become better. Mr. Ono also remembers the philosophy that he was taught by Master Takeda, that sometimes you need to be different. Sometimes you don't need to do the ordinary each and every time. So Mr. Ono tells Master Takeda that, you see, I was trying to do something different, something that is of significance, something that is more important to us. Now that Mr. Mori-san has failed to convince Mr. Ono to do or to convert and do the images that only particularly express the mood at the pleasure district, then there came a time of parting ways, and actually they parted. And during that time, Mori-san is said to have confiscated some of the portraits by Mr. Ono. But Mr. Ono wanted to go with his portraits. But as we said elsewhere, is that what we are told about a teacher is that when this teacher discovers that the protege is having some contrary work, they don't give it to you so that you go with it. They confiscate it. The same way that Ono's father did when he discovered that his son was drawing some images that he was expressing his desire to be an artist. The father did not want. He banned all the images. The second time we see with Sasaki, when Seiji Moriyama found that Sasaki was drawing some images that were contravening the tenets of the Mori-san villa, he confiscated the images. The same thing that we see happening here with the Seiji Moriyama against Mr. Ono is that the images were confiscated. Mr. Ono tried to plead with Mr. Seiji Moriyama to release his images, but he says, no, I'm not releasing the images. So, what we are told at this point is that Mr. Ono became his own teacher. He started his own farm. But then, what we understand is that maybe the farm of Mr. Ono was not as self-sufficient as that of Seiji Moriyama, because we are told that Seiji Moriyama lived with his proteges at the villa. But we are told that the students of Mr. Ono did not stay with Mr. Ono. Instead, they stayed at their own places. That's why we came to one of the students of Mr. Ono that is called Kuroda. Kuroda was living alone. He was not living in Mr. Ono's establishment. And Mr. Ono takes some time to tell us how a good teacher he was. He also had his philosophies. You see, here we see a transition from one teacher to another. This teacher with a different philosophy, going to another teacher with a different philosophy. You see, now that Mr. Ono became a painter that was motivated by Chishu Matsuda to be a nationalist painter, of course, he started painting for nationalism. He started painting to motivate imperialism. He started painting images that were showing the soldiers fighting. Let us go and fight. Let us go and attack. Such like stuff. So that is what the students were expected to do, the likes of Kuroda. We are also told about another student that is called Shintaro. Shintaro was another student of Mr. Ono.
The fallout between Kuroda and
what
Ono
leads to the fallout? I think now that Mr. Ono, the philosophy was to draw portraits portraying the nationalistic aspect. Definitely, what led to the fallout between him and Kuroda is maybe, or conclusively, Kuroda drew something else, something different, something that does not reflect the spirit of the Mr. Ono farm. That is.
Yeah.
Maybe you could add something, or we carry on.
Okay, maybe my thoughts are that when we come to, which probably we look at in a little bit later, but when we see the arrest of Mr. Kuroda,
yes,
they talk about the paintings being banned, right? So maybe those paintings that, like the painting that he kept, that the painting we see kept in the house of Mr. Ono,
yes,
those paintings were probably looked or frowned upon,
yes,
by the Japanese. It felt as if they were encouraging complacency, like we saw in the first painting that he made that got him kicked out of
the Moriyama villa. Yes.
So probably this painting that Kuroda was making, somehow, do you remember the same thing you said, that good students usually, even the story talks about the good students actually having a conflict with the sensei.
Yes, yes.
Like Sasaki had a conflict, Ono, and now we see even Kuroda and Kuroda's way of thinking and Ono's way of thinking is not going hand in hand. So I think probably, even though we might not have a clear picture, maybe he drew something that was considered unpatriotic.
Yes, unpatriotic.
And that's the reason why maybe, I understand, could it be that it's Mr. Ono reported in the
that is where we are heading to, because we understand that after parting ways with the Mori-san, he becomes an agent of the government. Mr. Ono becomes an agent of the government, and he's tasked with reporting unpatriotic artists. So any artist who would paint an unpatriotic image was to be reported to the government. And actually, Mr. Kuroda is reported to the government by Mr. Ono. Kuroda is taken to the cell. But maybe before we see what happens in the cell, we can see the image itself, and the parting of the ways. There is some similarity in the way that Mr. Ono parts ways with Kuroda and the way that Mori-san parted ways with Mr. Ono. It was at the same venue, that is at the pavilion. The pavilion, the place where Mori-san and Mr. Ono parted ways, is the same place where Mr. Ono and the Kuroda parted ways. I think there's a way that the writer was giving us this in one way or the other. Maybe we can look at it later, like, in the analysis.
We say like the saying that people say, the more things change,
the more they remain the same. Yes. Yes. So Kuroda, he gets arrested, but what leads to his arrest is that Mr. Ono, he is appointed to the government to become an agent of the government to report unpatriotic artists. Definitely, Mr. Ono reported Kuroda to the government agencies that this guy, go and investigate him. Definitely, after investigations, the police came to arrest Kuroda. At first, we said that Kuroda was not living in a good life. It is Mr. Ono who is telling us that when he was going to Mr. Kuroda, he found Kuroda living in a dilapidated environment. He was living together with his mother. The mother, that is Mrs. Kuroda, was weeping as the son was getting arrested. The mother was feeling the pain. I think here, as we go further, we look at now the parenting, how the parents feel the pain when their children are subjected to the pain. And as the arrest of Kuroda shows us an aspect of betrayal. the teacher is betraying his own
student.
student. And actually, something significant happens here. Several years after the release of Mr. Kuroda, they meet. They meet with Mr. Ono. Mr. Ono meets Kuroda several years. And do you know what happens? Kuroda even refuses to greet Mr. Ono.
Just looks at him.
Yes, he just looks at him and he turns away.
And something funny, just maybe, and it's something we'll discuss. At this point in time, when you're talking about the arrest of Kuroda, you're saying that Kuroda was not living in very good conditions. And at that point, Mr. Ono's prestige was at a high level. And then the same thing I talked about, the reverence. After the war, it seems the same, that there's a switch.
Yes.
Because Kuroda is now working at the university.
Yes.
He's doing much better for
the
himself.
The prospects of Kuroda are going up, while those ones of Mr. Ono are going down. Yes.
Yeah. So that's probably something that can talk about when we talk about the effects of the war. It seems to have changed the fortunes of, because at the end of when he's getting arrested from, seems as if his star has gone down and dimmed.
Yeah.
But it changes.